am Andrew Leduc,
That's what I love.
Mr. Mallard. Join me as always, Mr. Chief of Morale himself, Bud Copeland. Bud, how are you this evening before we get
So the point being is, good golfers are a fucking dime a dozen, and we saw it in full swing that the line of demarcation between.
here? Are you ready, Bud? Are you ready for the players? Are you ready to make money? Are you ready to try to beat me?
I didn't do my homework this week.
It's Tuesday night. We are live here on the Fantasy Sports Corporation, Divots and Pivots, with you to break down the Farmers Insurance and everything happening in the golf world. I am Andrew Leduc, a.k.a. Mr. Mallard. As always, Bud Copeland joins me to my left. How are you tonight, Bud? As I do my left and rights. You're on mute. Hot start. Coming out hot.
No, I had I had this beautiful play right from the that little intro there where I say I didn't do my homework this week. I did do my homework this week, and part of that homework is finding out that Nick Dunlap did not do his homework this week. I don't know if you caught that press conference where somebody asked him, "Do you have homework tonight?" He goes, "Yeah, not going to do it though." I love his little Southern drawl. Morale's high, dude. I think that as of this moment, everybody doom and gloom has taken over society, and it really bugs me that it's not even like people aren't even bitching about the glass being half empty. They're bitching about what's inside the glass, what's the glass made out of, et cetera, ad nauseum, ad infinitum. And part of that, I think golf got sucked down that hole because of uncertainty. John Rahm goes to live. Now, are they going to make a deal? Yada, yada, yada. Golf's in a terrible spot. The PG. This is going to be, I think we're going to look back at this as kind of the beginning of the end of all that nonsense, because this win just crossed so many different, I don't know what you want to call it, barriers, boundaries. If you want to go down the list of first amateur in 30 some odd years to win on the PGA Tour, since Lefty did it in the desert, only the 8th guy to do it all time win on the PGA Tour, or since 1940, sorry, excuse me. Because you get back into the early teen years and it's a whole different game. And I think it shows just, unfortunately, I'm going to eat some crow on this one, but I think that what Rory said a couple weeks ago about a global tour, this is a symptom of that. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I'm in a great mood. I think that it's a wonderful time of year to be talking about golf. I love this tournament. I'm a little bit intrigued to see, where it goes in the next 5 to 10 years. And it has nothing to do with the title sponsor, but it has to do with the shape of the PGA Tour and what is going to happen. But in the moment, I think we're in a good spot. And, especially with Liv just around the corner, Mayakoba, coming up in a couple of weeks. I keep getting hit with Facebook and Instagram ads and shit, and trying to pump this thing up. And I'm telling you, man, I just don't, whether it lives or not, I just don't see Liv actually growing into something that is going to offer kind of a valuable alternative. I think whatever new entity is coming down the pike, that's what's going to take over. And, but I'm getting ahead of myself. You asked me how I was doing, and I'm sitting over here staring at Nick Dunlap, and I was laughing at right at the intro, and I'm sure it's going to sound great just out of nowhere, my cackle, but I didn't notice that the merch came in. That our merch was posted, and so I got mine. I got my morning.
Oh, so you got your mug. I think my sweatshirt's coming tomorrow. So you got the first one. It looks good though.
It looks good. It feels good. It is good. It's morning wood. You'll see morning wood pop up here and there throughout the show on the social medias. And every once in a while, we'll give you some morning updates sponsored by Morning Wood. So there you have it. We never get beyond 15 years old with the Y chromosomes, and on with the golf. What's first on the docket this week, Junior? Where do you want to start? We got a lot. There was a lot more than just Nick Dunlap happening in the golf world. But Correct. We can go wherever you want to go. Where do you want to start off?
Let's start with the news, sir. And let's start with Nick Dunlap, because I got a question for you. Because look, obviously the excitement of this win, as you alluded to already, the amateur aspect, and 91 was the last time it was done, and the way he won too, where he kind of bounced back. I wasn't able to watch much of it for reasons, but you gave me the rundown that he double bogeyed somewhere along the lines in there, and then he was able to kind of come back and rein it back in and stick around, and that shows something. That's fun to watch as a golf fan, a young kid stand up to what was a pretty good field. This was a good field of golfers.
It was a solid field, especially for not being a quote unquote signature event necessarily. The American Express, it attracted some good names up there, and he was going toe to toe at the end with Justin Thomas and Sammy Burns, both Ryder Cuppers, both big winners, both have got pretty solid careers, under their belt to date, if they were to even walk away. And what you missed out on a little bit was it was some of the best kind of non-major, non-Ryder Cup golf, or most exciting storyline I think we've seen in quite some time. This kid where 54-hole lead, and you kind of just expect him to crack. You kind of, like, we talk about that line of demarcation between, good golfers and these elite golfers. And obviously he showed which side of the line he's on, because you're right. He dunks one in the water early in the round on 7. He gets a triple bogey there, and he's able to kind of claw his way back. And then on 16, buries a birdie to tie the lead. Now 17 at PGA West at the stadium course is just like the stadium course at TPC Sawgrass in the East, both Pete Dye, both island greens. The only difference is where you got the bulkheads in Sawgrass, you've got kind of these rocky outcropping kind of looking things out at PGA West. But he stands on that tee and he's got to hit first because he's coming off a birdie. Now in that situation, mentally, you want to go last. It's just like, in football, we'll go ahead and kick off to you because we want a shot later when we know what we're kind of dealing with. And so he has to stand up there, and he just sticks it in the middle of the green, ho hum. And then Sammy Burns dunks it in the water, and all of a sudden this kid's got a 2-shot lead going into 18, and he makes the most. And again, 18 out there in the West looks similar to the East. You got water on the left you got to deal with, and he makes one of the most do not go right swings I have ever seen in the history of golf. And fair enough, he's got nothing but room over there, and it's not, he's not, all he's got to do in his mind, he's got a 2-shot cushion. I mean, you don't ever think bogey, but it's nice to know that kind of comfort. Blocks it out right. Second shot, he's got a little bit of a hill to deal with, 195 plus, and he's got to get it up quickly. He blocks that out to the right. And for a moment, it looks like it's going to get lost in the gallery up in the hills and the mounds. And then out of nowhere, it did not. Now there was no collusion. Nobody kicked it. He didn't get any help, but because it happened way too fast. It just comes out of the crowd, and now it's sitting green side, and his short game has been just incredible all week, and he's staring at this thing. But as he's walking up 18, Bezadenhout, your guy, I know you love him. He kind of looks like we need to do a side by side. I wish I would have brought this up earlier. He kind of looks like the evil guy from Minions, who wears the all black with the pointy nose. No offense, I mean, no disrespect, but that's kind of who he reminds me of.
He turns out to be the hero.
Does he? Guy. Yeah, a 3-year-old. I should probably watch it. He birdies 18. He's only 1 shot back, and I'm sure he's thinking to himself, all right, now the pressure's on. This kid's over there, and he puts it up there to 5 feet 9 inches, and I guess his caddy was like, listen, your mom can make this putt. He's like, it's inside left all day, just that kind of thing. But when it dropped, I think the entire golf universe got tilted on its axis 1 degree. We're living in a new world, and just like you see it in other sports, you see it in the NFL with these quarterbacks now, these rookie quarterbacks, and the franchises want to get you in that rookie contract. How much can we squeeze out of you before we have to pay you Josh Allen money and not get Josh Allen results out of you? We want Pat Mahomes. Try to talk football, but you see these kids are coming out. They're ready. Gordon Sargent's going to be the next one coming out. We're talking about Ludwig Abear, who I think is going to probably have a good week, and I'm going to put him in my emergency 9, hint, just because of that kind of name brand recognition, where he's only been on tour 5 minutes and he's won a Ryder Cup, and he won last fall at the RSM. Yeah, so it was a big freaking deal. And the kid does not get his $1.5 million paycheck. I was explaining to my roommate why he doesn't get paid. She thinks it is the dumbest thing in the world. And I agree with her at this point. The blurred lines with NIL and stuff. I think if these kids are fortunate enough to receive one of these sponsors exemptions, we'll talk about this week's sponsor exemption later. I think you should be able to cash in on it. Amateur
part of the prize pool. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, in these rare one-offs, I don't think you should be able to play the tour and then go play the Walker Cup, but we can line. So Nick Dunlap, first one to do it in 30 years in the desert. Sorry you missed it. There was a good social media thing out there. Yeah. Sprinter van with the team. They were watching it live and they all went nuts. His coach from Alabama was there with the milkshake, and the story just keeps continuing with this kid.
So the more recent news on Nick Dunlap is that he's pulled out. He's withdrawn from the Farmers Insurance this week. He originally was set to play it. Just a super quick question on this, because I see it from both sides. Obviously, he wants to enjoy this win. This was a high emotion, high octane kind of moment for him. I'm sure he needs some time to recover and get back on track and kind of take it in and enjoy it. But at the same time, this is a very rare opportunity for someone as young as him on the PGA Tour to kind of get a chance to experience the follow-up to a win, and to get that experience of having to bounce back and get yourself back on track, back focused into playing a week after winning a tournament. Do you think that is a good enough reason for him to actually play the tournament to get that experience, or do you think I'm just completely putting too much emphasis on this experience that not a lot of guys get to have on the PGA Tour and get to learn from?
I think all this did was speed up a timetable for a kid like him. I think the reason he dropped out of the Farmers is because he's getting ready for the Masters at this point. And so I think he might even be looking at, because here's the thing, with that win,
Masters, the Century, like he's got a few tournaments now filling up his year.
But he has to accept membership. He has to actually kind of turn pro, accept the membership. And the way it works is once you win, you're exempt on the tour for the rest of that year and the following year. Now, because he's an amateur, this kind of comes with an invitation for membership, and then that kind of activates all of these signature events. The majors the two of the majors he's already in because he's the reigning US Am champion. But this would probably get him, so if he goes, when he does decide to go pro, then that's what happens. And now, if he wants to go back to Alabama and play more college golf, go get him. But I don't think he's going to. I think all this is doing, it's like, you know what, why am I going to go? I got nothing else to prove as an amateur now. Why not just go home, talk to my team, meaning both Alabama and whoever's going to run his personal kind of world business entities, et cetera, ad nauseum, and just get this squared away. Because if he gets his ducks in a row, obviously his game's in shape. We could see him at the Players, we could see him in Augusta, and then on down the line. And who knows? It's a President's Cup year. He could be wearing red, white, and blue as a professional later on too.
Yeah. So you okay. So, and that makes sense. It was a thought I crossed my mind earlier. That was like the young guys don't often get this chance to learn a lesson, like what it's like to turn around quickly this early in their career. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying, but also I get what you're saying, but I think
he's got a lot to do though, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I think he literally needs to go back. And when he laughed about, I'm not going to do my homework, I was like, bro, you're not going to do homework again. I mean, you don't know. He could be one of those guys like Tim Duncan famously finished at Wake Forest before, or he actually got his degree. That was part of his whole deal. A lot of guys do that, but he was homeschooled as a kid. He's kind of used to obviously managing his shit. He's 20 years old and he's pretty well squared away. So I don't think in his brain, he's like, yeah, I'll miss this one because I'm guaranteed the next two, if not more. I'm going to continue. And that's only if the Farmers sticks around. We know it's not going to be the Farmers next year, but this tournament,
not anymore.
We'll talk about the history about it later. So, yes, Nick Dunlap, we've beaten that dead horse, but 14 minutes on Nick Dunlap, but it was a once in a generation thing. I do want to reemphasize that, how rare this is. Like we said, lefty back in 91, 92, somewhere in there. And, it just doesn't come along. But I think we're shrinking that gap between raw kind of can't hang there mentally, don't really know how to win, but this kid's won everywhere. And the more opportunities they're given, I think we're going to see one or two more. I heard somebody last year predict that we're going to see an amateur win a major in the next 5 years. And I mean, look at what we just saw. Yeah. I mean, it's not too far fetched.
It wasn't a major field, but there were. I mean, Cantlay, Sander. There was names in this field that he beat out that is definitely worth noting. Another name though, where some of the other guys big on the tour was with Rory over in Dubai for the Hero Classic. Rory comes out and he's down to Sam Burns most of the weekend. Rory comes out, pulls it together on Sunday, and closes out for a back-to-back win. His fourth time winning at the Dubai Desert Classic. This is officially his tournament. It feels like. I mean, he's crushing it, and he's showing out for Boston Common Golf. Yes, we're gonna every now and then we are gonna talk about Boston Common Golf because Rory is on that team, and he's showing out for them. I saw a big social media post, and I'll say this: the TGIL teams, or they are
TGL.
NIL. TGL. I was thinking of the NIL deals in my head. The TGL teams, they're doing this right. They said, okay, look, we're stuck with this lapse of we're not able to play like we thought. Let's just, raise up and cheer for the guys that are on the teams out in the tour. And so I love what they do. And I saw that. It reminded me that Rory's on the team. So good for that. Rory crushing it over in Dubai, though. Big deal for you that it's back-to-back? Is that like a big deal, or is this a little different because of the tournament it is?
Huge deal. And I think just because we saw something historic over here, it's hiding the fact that Rory is playing some incredibly freaking good golf right now. He's got to be, if not, I don't have the odds for the Masters in front of me, but he's got to be top 3, if not number 1 right now. I'm sure John Rahm is still sitting at number 1, and Scotty Scheffler, but Rory's got to be top 3. I think the bigger deal here is it's because of a guy like Rory winning these tournaments, that has continued. They talked about Ernie Els. That's the record that he broke. Ernie Els had the record for the most Hero Dubai Desert Classic wins. Now it's Rory, and it's his 4th of this tournament. It's its 6th in Dubai. He's got 38 total wins as a pro, and 6 of them have come in this spot that has been trying to plant a flag in the game of golf, with the DP World Tour kicking off their season down there and ending their season a lot, down there. And it's going to be interesting because what will it look like with this new entity, with the PIF and the PGA Tour? They're calling it PGA Tour Enterprises, this private just money bag. What are they going to try to develop out of it? And I do think that with Rory saying the things he said recently about needing an elite global tour, these wins do mean a lot. And so that's why I think it's pretty significant that he goes over there every year, and he seems to always walk out of there either with a win or a high showing. But outside of that, I mean, let's say, who is he going toe to toe with there?
It was Sam Burns at the end, or at least it was Sam Burns at least on Saturday. Like I said, I wasn't able to watch too much on Sunday, but
Tommy Fleetwood.
Tommy Fleetwood was in it as well.
That's who Rory was. So if Tommy wins this, I don't think it's as big of a deal. I mean, Tommy's won on the DP World Tour. It'd be a bigger deal if Tommy came over here and won, which I think we'll see soon. Shouts to Roars, good for him. I think it was kind of a cool story, but I think the bigger deal is look out for him at Augusta.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And yeah, you alluded to this. We could touch on it quickly. Rory's comment this week about having a kind of a world global, like, Champions Tour is the way they described it, like in the soccer universe and over in Europe, the European Champions Tour. So, hey, I'm not against it. It's loosely the way we already kind of have the world of golf structured, just without the actual structure of being relegated to different tours. That's really the only thing that would change. But clubs play, and soccer clubs play on the different leagues, the club league, the Champions League, whatever. They bounce around. So I don't think much would change if that would happen, other than we'd have this fun kind of ladder system that I'm all right with.
No, I think it's inevitable. And I think that's what he's hinting at, is that outside of the majors, I think it's going to be the DP World Tour and the PGA Tour are going to remain, and there's just going to be this kind of series, kind of like they have the Rolex series, or the for the DP World Tour, which is this like random assortment of 5 tournaments throughout the year that just have a little more money behind them. There's a separate points race for it, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think that's what he was hinting at, is like, just create another one of those. We got a bunch of smart people. We can factor things in now. I still think that Live, as the way it's structured and played and delivered, it doesn't hold a candle to this shit. 72 holes, 4 days. I don't let them wear shorts. Great. Let them wear shorts and let them opt in or out of music. Who gives a fuck? But the quality of play and the girthiness of these fields and some of the depth that you get simply outweighs when you get an all-star team together that plays an exhibition match 10 times a year.
Yeah, no, I agree. So that's what we got.
But
to
you're right.
possibly
It's
look
going to
forward
end.
to.
It's going to end with a global tour, and I think it's going to look something like you just said, like a Champions League, where, all right, you know, a certain percentage, depending on however many majors your tour has under its belt, or the average world tour ranking or golf ranking, you know, that's the number of players that you get to send, and you have your own little, and you get to determine who you send, but you get so many spots. But I thought one thing that I just want to bring up about the Rory comments, then we can move on. One of the examples he gave, Jesus, what's wrong with me? One of the examples he gave was, how cool would it be to see the top 50 in the world or 70 in the world show up for a huge tournament in India? And I didn't think that that's where he was going with that final destination when he was starting to say that out loud. And it really was kind of like, you see how big sports like cricket and even soccer are over in those other cultures. And it would be kind of cool to see if you could get maybe some different local flair, maybe organically, because they behave the way they do it, like, you know, rowdy cricket matches or whatever the hell, or like Serbia with their basketball. I don't know, I've seen that video now, brother. I played in Serbia, and it's like nuts. They're shooting off fireworks. Maybe organically that's what they deliver, or maybe it's a whole different flavor. But I'd be down for, you know, taking this signature event calendar and just making it a global affair. And so that you think about it, between that and the majors, you're going to have the world's best together 12 times a year. And then let's put a cherry on top, let them have like a 2-week, and then we have got the Ryder Cup every other year and the President's Cup. So my cup runneth over if we go this direction, but I think that's where it is going. It's inevitable.
Yeah, and I think the biggest point that I heard you make is the whole leading into the culture.
You heard a point in that?
Leading into the culture organically, because I do think that is one of the spots where Liv has missed the mark here, where they're going to all these global places. They're trying to they're going to Australia, golf event, whatnot, but they force it. They force the party scene. I'd like to see it leaned into more of the culture naturally, organically. So I love that thought there.
That's
real fast.
You got
one thing. Oh, you're just pointing out. Okay. Let's get into something else. The big hat. Look, there's another big story this week that we can't pass over. But Lydia Ko, LPGA Tour, gets her 20th win. It's been a little while for her. I guess the biggest question here that I have for you, because you're more versed on the LPGA Tour than I am myself, has Lydia Ko cemented a Hall of Fame status once her career is over here, or does she still have work to do? Because 20 career wins. And you know, doing it the way she just did it this week coming back, that's pretty impressive.
So the Women's Hall of Fame actually works on a point system. And I mean, in my mind, she's definitely, you know, on paper, she's earned it with the number of wins, Rookie of the Year, scoring trophy in 21 and 22. She's Lydia Ko has just been she kind of did a Jordan Spieth for a while there. And this is her coming up for air, getting her 20th win, gives her 26 points. You need 27 points to get into the LPGA Hall of Fame. And part of those 27 points is you have to either be a Rolex Player of the Year, have won a major, or have won, I think it's the VAR is how it's pronounced, or the VAR trophy. Basically, they're kind of like scoring trophy. And those are worth 2 points each. Every other LPGA Tour win is worth 1 point. So with her 20 wins, you start doing the math, it adds up. She's got 26. And so I think it's really cool. I think it's a low-key it's a low-key story to follow in the overall year. You've got Rose Zhang is kind of still the hot up-and-comer right now. Nelly Korda is always a fan favorite. And they just released, I don't know if you saw this, but the Capital One The Match just announced the match is going to be.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, this like literally a couple hours ago. It's going to be Lexi Thompson and Max Homa against Rose Zhang and Rory McIlroy. Now, here's why I will tune into this, because YouTube golf is absolutely not taking over. Nothing's going to take over, especially even when we saw from something like the American Express or what we might see at the Farmers.
Yeah, but they can't be ignored. It can't be ignored anymore. No. It's here to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a wonderful way to experience the game, and it's a very accessible and user-friendly way to experience the game. You know, later on this year, look out for some content from us. I'll be down at the US Open that week in Pinehurst, and I'm going to might be taking a peek at Tobacco Road and a couple other places down there that are kind of those cult favorites. So anyway, but like that, these YouTube guys have opened a a Pandora's box in the golf world that we just can't put it back together, and they can't be ignored. And so so I can get that kind of accessible golf on YouTube. I want to see these professionals go head to head. I don't want to see Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady with Phil Mickelson. And I don't want that anymore. I want this. They used to do it. Shell's Wonderful World of Golf. The other night, I was sitting there watching the 1994 match with Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus. And I was like, oh shit, look at this. These two guys in their 50s, they're busting each other's balls. They're already over the hill, but they're still grinding it out. So I am super excited. Somebody already commented online. Basically, I don't see any way that Max Homa and Lexi Thompson take this one. And I'm thinking to myself, his brother, all it takes, like the line of demarcation between Max Homa and Rory McIlroy is not as thick as you think. I would say if those two of them go out there head to head, maybe 60-40 Rory, and that could even, you never know. We saw Max get hot. If they're playing on the West Coast like they are this week, Max is the California kid. So I look for the next Capital One, the match coming in February. But I thought that was cool because I'm also excited to see. I know Lexi Thompson's got personality from her social media presence, and she's been around. She's been in the golf world since she was 12 when she qualified for the U.S. Open. We all know Max Homa. He's first team all social media right now. Everybody knows Rory McIlroy, and he's a very public figure. Rose Zhang is the one that I'm just like, I'm so curious to find out what kind of like what kind of person is she? Is she gonna, is it gonna feel forced if she's, busting somebody's chops, or is it gonna come organically? So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Lydia Ko back in the scene, and I'm excited about tuning into the LPGA Tour this year. So look for more of that on Divots and Pivots.
I'm excited about Nate, our friend Nate from Acorn Hills, jumping in the Instagram chat over there. It says we're looking great, and he says hashtag Bud for President US. So love that. We're not really set up to get Instagram comments up on the screen at this time, but I just want to make sure I shouted you out. Thanks for joining us.
Fire the intern.
Well, that's more of a software issue, but anyways, we can probably grab one more news story here real fast. It's probably gonna be a quick one because we do not want to keep boring you with our thoughts on Liv. You all know what they are. Apparently, there's some rumors that Tyrrell Hatton and Tommy Fleetwood are being looked at Liv. And look, we're gonna keep getting these rumors until they happen. I'm not gonna really put much thought into them. The one question that this did bring up for me though is that because of Tyrrell's alignment with the TGL and Boston Common Golf, do you think if he did go to Liv, is that going to be a line in the sand where he will be removed?
Yes.
Do you see that going? I mean, because I feel like that might happen. 1,000,000%. I don't think it should, but I feel like it would.
TGL is a direct competitor with Liv in the sense that it's the team golf approach, and you've got they're in bed with the PGA Tour and Tiger and Rory. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it would be as acrimonious as it might have been, say, 8, 9, 10 months ago. Look at these Bobo ass headphones coming apart. But it would definitely be a thanks for coming, nice departure gift. The reason I put this in the rundown was because Xander followed up with the guys on Foreplay with an interesting comment earlier today, because the story that was out there was, okay, here we go, because it was Ricky Fowler a couple weeks ago, it was Tony Finau a couple weeks before that, now it's Tyrrell and Tommy, and one was emphatic about apparently not like, I'm here, I'm good to stay, and the other one was kind of like, not right now, I'm happy with what's going on, but we have conversations, I've had conversations, that kind of thing. And what Xander said was kind of interesting. He goes, when you hear somebody pledge fealty, I'm not going anywhere. He goes, I already think they're gone. And it was funny to hear from an insider like that about like how skeptical they are. And he didn't say it even like a bad way. He's almost just like, yeah, that's kind of the number one thing. It's like in the world of football, when an athletic director publicly states, coach is our guy and we're not firing anybody. And then like on Monday morning, they've let go coach Jim Bob. So Liv is dying to stay relevant. I am dying to know who is starting these rumors, because more of them are turning out not to come to fruition than are. It usually feels like we get blindsided by Liv deflections. There's only been a handful that was dangling out there. Cam Smith famously after winning the Claret Jug, and then he had to kind of bat him away. Brooksy, same thing. So I just think this is some inside, kind of trying to get some headlines. And that was kind of all with the Liv there, because you're right. They're not going anywhere, but doesn't necessarily mean they need to stay here. And we should take a quick break before we really, I've got feelings about fashion.
Yes, I know you do. Let's hear from Underdog real fast.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
And just as I promised in the TikTok video, fashion will be the next topic. And look, I think this is honestly the third show out of the 4 that we've done so far to start the year where we mentioned Tiger's clothing line or a clothing line or whatever. The fashion is just now becoming a staple of the show, is it or is it not? Especially when you're wearing such fire product like the Acorn Hill stuff you got on.
Listen, I will say real quick, this is the most so there's different classifications of hoodie in the world. We're even seeing the golf hoodie now, that kind of athletic material. There's definitely the very lightweight, almost dry fit material like you can get from Acorn Hills. Then there's like t-shirt hoodies. Then there's these like comfy hoodies. This is not necessarily I wouldn't say this is like a workout hoodie. You can go for a hike in it maybe, but this is absolutely like wearing a hug. And I think that you got to go over there and get yourself a Be Brave hoodie. And this is what I was chatting with Nate the other day. And I was telling him, the color scheme's irrelevant. Just pump out more of this. It's not irrelevant. It actually looks, I like this nice color right here, but the Be Brave hoodie, you got to get yourself one. But in the fashion world, there was Malbon Golf. I want to start there. Malbon Golf or Malbon. I don't know if it's Malbon. I'm pretty sure it's Malbon. Jason Day goes to Malbon. They get on our radar. It's a little baggier. It's almost like almost looks kind of like 1980s bowling gear at some points, but it's a little baggier look. Then all of a sudden, Charlie Hull from the ladies' side comes out. She's Team Malbon. And then I see that the American Express at the Amex this week, the merch tent, they had 65th anniversary merch that was created by Malbon Golf. And the people over at Malbon are even just saying like, listen, yeah, we are an upstart. We are new. And we're trying to get in front of, as many eyes as we can. We saw this opportunity to partner up with the American Express on the 65th anniversary. And so it's a pretty cool, they've got a nice vibe to them. I mean, I would not turn down some free shit. I would absolutely kind of, give you an honest review, right here on the show for sure. But, Malbon Golf, and I think we're going to see more of these, Trolls Golf or, Bogey Boys Golf. Everybody, the Murray. I'm waiting to see William Murray Golf, the Bill Murray line. I'm waiting to see that on the PGA Tour here soon. You see it in all the pro shops, but I'm talking about like if any of these one-offs, because that was the one fashion story I needed to get in there, because what did they do? What did they do with Tiger? It's so bad.
So I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought it. And real fast, yes, Chris, we are back. Thank you for the shout out. Thanks for joining us. I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought this when I saw the Sunday Red logo. First of all, the Sunday Red, we all know what Sunday Red is. To me, it's a phrase, a description. It is not the name of something. I fell off right away with the name. I like Sunday Red to be something else, not this. Like that's
where I disagree. That's where I disagree. I like the theme and the name of Sunday Red, but you go, girlfriend.
But the designs were like
woof.
the leaping tiger and with the SR, like it's just,
it looks like a pretzel.
That's what they came up with. That was their launch of to counter. You've been with Nike all these years. You made this with Nike, and now you're come to us. We love to have you. Here we go. We're gonna give you this. We're gonna put together some deep red golf balls. We're gonna sell as well. It feels so cheesy. It's just not good.
So here's where I stand on it. First of all, I disagree a little bit on the Sunday Red thing. I think that's kind of cool. And you are right. We all know who Sunday Red is. And I think that's the point of this. I think it's like, you're damn right. We don't even have to say it.
To me, it just doesn't feel like the name of a clothing line. Like maybe a series within the clothing line I would get, but like for the entire clothing line, that's where I'm just like, but whatever. Neither here, that's not the end of the world for me.
I think so. I think that doesn't bother me. And I actually really like the whole. So there's there's 4. If you haven't seen it yet, there's 4 different trademarks or 4 different logos that I guess trademark paperwork was submitted from TaylorMade.
Yes.
One, and it's the phrase Sunday Red is like the name of it, but then that's also one of them, which is the words Sunday Red. And then they do it as well with SUN and then a space, then day, and then a space, and then red. Everybody gets it, sun, because the sun. Okay, I don't have to go through that.
Yeah.
So they've got the 2 spellings of it, all gravy. I don't even mind. They've got this other one that is the acronym SDR, and it's kind of in a triangle round a logo. And where I am absolutely furious is whoever greenlit the tiger caricature leaping lizard logo, because it looks like it's a cheap knockoff of the Jaguar logo. It looks almost like a pretzel, or maybe some sort of microscope zoomed in on something. It's just, you do see it, but I just think you had so many other options. Frank was staring you in the face, the head cover, but then I also understand that they're trying to, market to a different demographic than me. I gotta tell you, I didn't necessarily go out of my way to wear Tiger Woods gear before. So, I'm not doing it now. I'm not doing this out of spite. That's an objective kind of swing and a miss for me, dog. And I think it's because you can recover. I think you can recover easier with the words if you have a solid logo, because you can't just drop them. But that Tiger doesn't, that Tiger doesn't do it for me.
Tiger doesn't do it. And I'll tell you who you're mad at, sir. You said you're mad at the person over greenlit this. You are mad at Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods, we're kidding ourselves if we think Tiger Woods didn't have a final say in what these designs were. He may not have designed them himself, but he chose. He picked. He had a say in that. So if you want to be mad at someone, then you got to say you're mad at Tiger Woods, because he had a hand in it. And yes, I agree. Tiger is lame.
I'm very much on the record, not upset with Mr. Eldrick Tiger Woods. You can take beef with the big cat if you want. I will retract and revise and say then I am pissed off at whoever included this in the options given to our dear leader, because this should not have even been on the menu to allow this man to select. So thank you for pointing out the dangerous road I was going down. Please, Tiger, don't be mad at me.
He won't be mad at you. That's fine. So anything else on Sunday Red then? Because like I said, it is what it is for me. I preferred the Tiger Woods, the TW logo, like his other brand, like that. That's cool to me. That's sleek. That's nice. Like I like that so much better than what TaylorMade's doing here. So it was disappointing to me as a whole.
God, I'm such a whore. I'm gonna end up changing my mind like the first time I see it on a quarter zip.
Yeah, and then you're gonna wear it, and you're like, "Oh, this is awesome."
No, I won't wear it. I'll just
be
like, I'll be dripped out in Acorn Hills head to toe, son. It's almost time for the quarter zip. All right, let's get out of the fantasy world, or get out of the fashion world and into the fantasy world, into the farmers,
into the fantasy world.
And actually, kind of a little segue.
Let's talk there. Torrey Pines.
Well, before actually getting to Torrey Pines, the farmers. This is kind of talking about what we were saying earlier, with companies kind of shifting in and out of the golf space. They're dropping not only their sponsorship of this tournament next year, they didn't renew Ricky Fowler this year. And Ricky was on the record saying, like, sounds to me like they're just literally they're kind of not constricting, they're cutting back, and they're just cutting golf out of their marketing plan altogether.
He basically said that he said outright that he thinks they have a new CEO that's taking them in a different direction and downsizing. So from a business standpoint, it makes sense. This is one of those where don't read too much into it. I am always at fault of that. So I was telling myself, don't read too much into that. This is a strictly business decision in this case. but I think it still does speak to the overall kind of world of golf and business right now. So continue. Sorry on Farmers Insurance. The last time we called this tournament that tournament.
Dun, 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 dun. I mean, originally it was the San Diego Open. It's been different iterations of things over the years. It didn't get to Torrey Pines till 68. Doesn't have anything fun in the history of it, like the Amex with the Bob Hope, with the Amex girls or whatever the hell they were called back in the day.
Oh yeah,
the Bob Hope girls. That was the thing that struck me the most, that they just had these, anyways. So it's a classic tournament like this is one of those that I'm curious to see where it ends up if we do go with this kind of global elite tour down the road. Is the Farmers all of a sudden become the new John Deere? Does it become a whipping post? Because the location is iconic. Like I said, it goes back to the 60s with at least, the partnership with Torrey Pines. And this Torrey Pines South course is the longest one they play. It's beefy. The rough is usually, a little thick for these guys. We know what they do with it for the US Open. But it traditionally takes a solid player to win at this course. You don't have just kind of, well, I guess you had Luke List a couple of years ago, but he was even running hot at that time. You don't have people kind of come out of nowhere and win here. So I'm excited about it. And of course, one of my favorite things about being on the West Coast is we get to start talking about POA greens and how it does make. But you see the people who can putt on POA. Tiger famously, California kid, Max Homa, defending champ. He's another one. Between Ludwig and Max, you can go ahead and mark them in my 9 because Max has shown us what he does when they get out to the West Coast. What's really going to be interesting is to see if any of the new faces like Ludwig kind of come up, or Will Zalatoris, Gary Woodland, those guys that are kind of coming back. And we saw, Daniel Berger come back after, his hiatus, and he finished in the top 40 last week. So this is that next step in the tour season. The Amex brings us over to the continent, and I think really the Farmers kind of kicks it off. And then we got the Genesis and the Pebble Beach right around the corner.
Yeah, and getting into the kind of makeup of this course, you mentioned the long rough, you mentioned the POA greens. The weather is going to play a factor this week, not necessarily
I'm glad you
on
said that.
The days of the tournament, but not necessarily on the days of the tournament. But if you've seen any social media or news posts right now, San Diego is basically underwater.
They get rain like 4 times a year.
Yeah, and then when they do this time, it just happens to be Torrey Pines week, and they're getting a ton of water. So this course is going to be squishy. It's going to be wet. That's only so we'll see. I don't know. I haven't heard any rumblings that maybe they cut the rough slightly shorter than they planned on it to try to account for this, because if they keep the rough, like you said, at the length they usually do and thick, the rough, you're dead. Like, I don't see how you can save power hitting in the rough on this course if they keep it at the normal height and it's as wet as it's expected to be. Bring that up as well, and we'll get to it in more detail when we get to our key 3 stats. But putting is going to be massive this week. And this is where I have my question for you. I mentioned before we got on the show here. To me, a wetter, softer green when it's putting on it is when the flaws come out in your putting game. Does that make sense? Because I feel like you need to be a more confident putter to hit a putt on a wet, slower green because of how much force and power you have to give the shot compared to a finesse shot on a faster, quicker, smoother green. Does that make sense? Or like, is confidence going to have to play more into effect on a wet green? Or do you get saved because the ball's not going to run 15 feet past the hole?
You got it there at the very end. It's actually the opposite, because in my experience, anyways, a wet green or a wet green, you can give it a little extra because, like you said, you're not worried about it blasting it too far by. And you can take straighter lines because a slower green takes a little bit of that breakaway. The faster it is, I mean, that's where you get completely exposed, even from 2 feet away, a la Scott Hoke in the late 80s. This guy blows a Masters. He had a 2-foot putt for the win and he misses it. And then Nick Faldo famously ends up taking home the green jacket. So I'm glad you texted when you did about the weather, because I hadn't even been thinking about the weather. I mean, we've gone from Hawaii to the Coachella Valley. And then of course, why would it rain in San Diego? It only does once every 50 years. And I guess this is the year for the rain. So that does change things up a little bit. And I'm looking down at my my model, and ironically enough, it doesn't change what I would put in, for my key three,
Yeah.
which shocker, now that we're back in the meat of the season, I've added a fourth. But it is an interesting thing to watch because length is basically, we're already in the longest course they play all year, and then you add to it being wet and pretty soft. You're not going to get a lot of run, so it's going to be interesting. You're really going to not just have to be long, but long and accurate, and then that does change the game. So, saying all that said, what do you got for your key three this week?
Yeah, so for me, par four is 450 to 500. You mentioned the course being the longest. That's true. The majority of these holes are going to fall in that 450 to 500 range. Also, your proximity, your approach shots are mostly going to be 200 plus, not all, obviously, but the average is going to be 200 plus yards. So proximity 200 plus, 450 to 500 par fours. And then to kind of balance that out, I actually like strokes gained short game this week. Like I said, I think if you are in the rough around the greens, you're gonna have to be good with the wedges and getting it up and getting it close. So I like the short game play this week. There's got to be a deciding factor to kind of balance this thing out. So give me strokes gained, short game, 450 to 500 par fours, and approach shots 200 plus.
Ring the bell.
Sir? Where are you at?
Ring the bell on par fours, 450 to 500. I've been harping on how long this course is, so naturally you got to just be talented with long. You got to be able to hit the fairway, and then you got to be talented with your mid to long irons. So par fours, 450 to 500. Sure. Strokes gained putting on POA, and I specifically filtered it for POA for the obvious reasons. It does kind of make a difference. So strokes gained putting on POA, strokes gained par fours, 450 to 500, strokes gained tee to green, which takes a little bit of your strokes gained short game. Say that for 3 times fast. Takes a little bit of that because it is looking holistically like, how are you just going to be able to get around if you are out of position? Who's going to be, not taking a whole stroke or stroke and a half just to get the ball in the cup from the rough? So strokes gained tee to green, and then strokes gained par fives, because the easiest scoring holes on this course are the par fives. So you have to take advantage when you have those in front of you. So there you have it. Strokes gained putting on POA, tee to green, par fives, and then the par fours, 450 to 500.
I like all that, and that all makes sense. Look, before we get to our picks, to our emergency 9, no, because I got to ask you, I'm going to have you give all of your 9 picks first, because our models got crossed here. I can no longer see my picks, and I forgot to write them down separately before. So you're going to give your 9, and then I'm going to reset the model for my stuff, and I'm going to give you my 9. So hit us with your 9 to 7, bud.
That's very funny.
Well, actually, no. What am I doing? What am I doing before we do that? The intern puts so much time into the. I can't leave the intern hanging. I got to let the works be shown. The emergency 9. That's it. That's our weekly rankings for you to play with whatever fantasy format you play. DraftKings, Underdog, FanDuel. You pick your home league with your friends where you're just picking guys who win money. Use these rankings; they'll do you good. Bud, hit us 9 through 7.
Chef Brian, if you're watching, we love you. Do not let this deter you from the Super Bowl. It'll all make sense. It'll all make sense. All right. So 987, Daniel Berger coming back after that long hiatus, 39th last week. And that was his first tournament since the 2022 US Open. And in his 39th place finish, he gained 4 strokes on the field, which means game is in form. It's in beyond, where it needs to be. And he's also 7th in my model. Ludwig Abear, he's 40th in my model, but he's a gut play because he already won last fall, had a kick-ass Ryder Cup. And again, he's the next thing. If Nick Dunlap wouldn't have won, we probably still would be talking about Ludwig Abear as the hot young stud, which he is. And I mean that in the kindest way. And then Keegan Bradley. Keegan Bradley was runner-up last year. He got a 4th and a 5th in his history. He plays well at this tournament. He's not ranked high in my model. He's 25th in my model, and he's shit putting on POA. But again, runner-up last year, familiarity with this. So there you have it. Danny Berger, Ludwig Abear, and Keegan Bradley, 9, 8, and 7.
And Keegan Bradley is a guy who, when he gets rolling, he gets rolling. We say it all the time. When he pops in a model for us, you got to play him because he's a very hot and cold player, and he's playing hot right now. So I like using your eye test with Keegan Bradley right now instead of just trusting the numbers. All right, 6-4, if I did my math correctly, 6-4. Who do you got?
Justin Rose showed up at 10th on my model, and Justin Rose won on the West Coast last year at the AT&T Pebble Beach. I do think that he's got another season or two. He's got another win or two before he kind of maybe goes into that, like, all right, we'll see at the majors if you get an invite. But Justin Rose, for me, he's still in really good form, and he putts well. He's 16th on POA. So Justin Rose, Colin Morikawa, he won at the Zoso last fall. He was 5th at the Century, and I think he's back and he's dialed in. So he showed up as 9th on my model, so top 9. I'm going to give him a spot. And then 6th on my model, sneaky good. I tipped my hand at this earlier. Luke List, he won here 2 years ago, T25 last year, seems to be a horse for this course. So I'll give Luke List some love.
Luke List, that's someone who, if you are playing on DraftKings, 7,800, he's a little bit nice, lower down on that list for you, that price range to make things happen for you. All right, give us your top 3. 3, 2, 1. Give them in that order. Let's end on the top.
I'm not ashamed to get a little chalky here with Xander Schauffele. He's 4th in my model, first putting on POA, 10th tee to green, 7th 450 to 500. He's coming off a 3rd and a 10th in his last 2 starts. So X going to give it to you. Patty Ice is 2nd in my model, not particularly in the best form to where I would expect him to be. I think, he usually starts popping this time of year though. So give me some Patty Ice, Patrick Cantlay, and then number 1, like I said earlier, he's the Cali kid. He won here last year. He's going to win in the state of California again this year somewhere. So Max Homa, come on down. Will you be my prom king?
I think he would say yes, because he seems like that type of fun guy that he'll go out there and have a good time with you. Let me quickly readjust the model here, because you know how we do. We like to shoot from
while you're readjusting the model. Last year, we alluded to it. This is the tournament where there's another tournament going on. So real quick, the way it works at the Farmers, the Torrey Pines Public Municipal Golf Course Complex. It is a public course. It's got a north course and a south course. They play the north and the south on Thursday and Friday, and then they play the weekend on the south course. Well, on the weekend, the APGA, the Advocates Professional Golf Association, which is a professional golf tour dedicated to the mission of advancing diversity and growth in the game in those areas that have traditionally not had a lot of help or opportunities. And so it's growing pathways to grow the game in a lot of those neighborhoods and communities. They do their Farmers Invitational over the weekend. And so when the PGA Tour is on the south course on Saturday, the APGA will have their Farmers on the north. They'll play the north course, and then they'll play vice versa ad nauseum. They finish up when the PGA Tour is already done, because the PGA Tour finishes up on Saturday. They start on Wednesday this week, so they don't mess around with the conference championship games in the NFL. And Marcus Bird, who won the APGA Farmers last year, is actually in the PGA Tour Farmers this year on a sponsor's exemption. So shouts to Marcus Bird. Good luck to you this year in the field.
Perfect. Good luck, Marcus. All right, let's get into my number 9 through 7. I'm going to kick it off. Number 9, Michael Kim coming in. He finished T6 at the MX last week. I like what he's doing so far early this year. He's had top 10 on par 4s, 450, 500. So I would like to see him continue carrying that. And then you said this guy earlier as well, Colin Morikawa, for all the same reasons. This is his type of course. And I'm going to go back to one of my favorites from last year that I seem to find myself always playing, and that's Mr. Adam Svensson. A couple top 35 finishes and a T5 so far this year. So Adam Svensson, 7,600 if you're playing over at DraftKings. He is number 1 in approach shots from 200 plus yards so far this year. So I like that stat there. And then going into my number 6, Patrick Cantlay as well. I get it. All the same reasons. I played him last week. Going to be on him again this week. Another guy I've been on, I think, in all the tournaments so far this year, Taylor Pendrith. He's a riskier one, though, because I feel like I might be catching him on the downturn here. He's been hovering. So Taylor Pendrith is a risky one, but it's good enough for me. And then Ben Griffin, I feel, is still on that uptick. A T9 at the MX, top 30, Sony Open, and T8 at the RSM. So Ben Griffin showing up at top 5 in both putting and short game on these POA greens. And then my top three.
Hold on. Do you have Canadian in your heritage?
No. Well, there is the French part of me is French Canadian, I guess, technically. So yes,
makes sense. Taylor Pendrith, Adam Svensson. You seem to enjoy picking our friends from the north, and I like that I like that Ben Griffin call because he was on the cusp of being Eric Cole before Ben Griffin did not capitalize on some of his opportunities, and Eric Cole continued to. So Ben Griffin, look out for him to pop.
Yes, and then my top three, number 3 here. This is another risky one, but I like him to show up this week, and that's Sahith Theegala, because he either shows up or he doesn't show up at all. And I think that this feels like one of those weeks where he's going to show up. So Sahith Theegala, top 10 in most of my categories, and then gonna keep riding until he gives me something outside of the top 25 finish. Eric Cole, we're gonna keep going with him. And then my number 1 as well, another guy who's just hot right now is Xander, going back to Xander as well as you were. So my 3-1 is Sahith Theegala, Eric Cole, and Xander Schauffele. And that is our emergency 9 from both of us.
God, I stepped on it too. You were landing it so beautifully. Sahith Theegala, another California kid who probably has some familiarity with this, and then of course Eric Cole, and like you just said, Xander. So I like that. I don't see any weaknesses there. So we'll find out. We're going to put that in the hopper. We'll see it. We'll see over the weekend. I talked to my connections, my friends over in the other league, he built, and I love it. I gotta read this to you. So if you're wondering what the fuck am I stumbling around about, the Morning Wood will show up on the social media on the weekends with little updates about who to get excited for, heading into the final days of the PGA Tour events. And to do that, I wanted to create a little tracker. And the guy who does my other league has created this thing, and he says, "I love this shit. I'm so happy to share and help as much as I can." Because I said, "Hey, how did you do that? I just want to create a much more simplified one that I can pump 9 names into every week and keep going." He said, "This spreadsheet is a house of cards balanced on a pyramid of toothpicks." And so I figured, this is my guy. So we got the Morning Wood tracker coming to you this weekend. Stay tuned for more. Find us at Divots and Pivots everywhere you can find us.
Yeah, let's just say when you see that pop up, you will not be able to miss it. It's going to be pretty obvious. So real fast, though, before we land the plane, as Bud always wants me to do here, let's tease the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl is coming around the corner here. We don't know the matchup yet, but on February 11th, here on Fantasy Sports Corporation, we are already planning ahead. We will be having a Super Bowl super show from 9 to 12, Super Bowl Sunday morning. And yours truly, myself and Bud Copeland here, we will be a part of that show with a segment on food, drinks, and entertainment centered around the Super Bowl. And if you know this name, definitely show up and hang out with us. But we're gonna have a special guest joining us for that, Mr. Chef Brian Duffy. You may know him from Food Network shows, from HGTV shows. He was on a bunch of episodes of Bar Rescue back in the day as well. So Chef Brian Duffy, he's doing a lot of stuff, traveling around the country.
He's a solid YouTube watch as well.
Yes, he is. So he's traveling around the country, helping bars, restaurants, chefs all over take their businesses and their world to the next level. So we are super excited to have him on, talk with him, and plus all the other stuff the show is going to bring to you. We got some ex-NFL players joining for Jeopardy. There's going to be segments on fantasy. There's going to be segments on betting and prop bets. And so anything you can think of for Super Bowl Sunday, catch it here. Fantasy Sports Corporation, 9 to 12. That morning. We'll get you ready for the game. As we said, that's going to do it. I'm going to land this plane smooth tonight. No bumps. You can unstrap your seatbelts because we're going to come in hot and smooth. I'm Andrew LeDuc. This is Bud Copeland. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next Tuesday here on Divots and Pivots.